Hello everyone, welcome to my kitchen. My name is Michael and today I'm going to be sharing with you my version of Pollo Guisado or chicken stew. It is a dish that my mother used to make when we were growing up and this is my take on it today. Stick with me and I'll show you how this is made. Let's get started making our chicken stew. This is my version to take of a Puerto Rican dish called Pollo Guisado. And I had this when I was growing up. My mother used to make it for us. And I've got 4 chicken thighs. I like the dark meat of that, but you can use breast meat if you like, or you can cut up a whole chicken and use it as whatever you want of it. But I've got 4 chicken thighs here and I've got the skin on and I've still got the bone in on them. And I've got some of my house seasoning here. And if you haven't seen that video on how I make that, I'll leave the link in the description box below of how that's made. And this has a little bit of salt, onion powder, garlic powder, and black pepper in it. So we're going to put a little bit of coating on that and we're going to go ahead and season our chicken. So now that I've got my seasoning on my chicken, I want to make sure I'm going to rub all of that in there so that it all gets nicely coated on that. And then I'm going to put it in the refrigerator and let it sit for about 30 minutes and let that marinate on that while I work on my other ingredients. If you want to make this ahead, if you know you're going to be doing this in the afternoon for dinner, you can start it in the morning, put it in the refrigerator and let it sit all day. So the longer you leave it in the refrigerator with the seasoning on it, the better it's going to be. But I'm going to leave mine in there about 30 minutes to an hour and we're going to be back and I'll show you what we're going to do with our vegetables. Now that we have the chicken marinating in the refrigerator, we're going to go ahead and prepare the vegetables. So we're going to start out, I've got 3 russet potatoes here. I've got 2 fairly large ones and 1 small one. And you can take a look at that once you get everything in it. This is the last thing that you're going to put in. And you can gauge how much you can put in there in the pot once you get it going. So we're going to start out with 3. I've got 2 large ones, like I said, 1 small one. I'm going to go ahead and peel these and I'll come back and we're going to cut them up into little pieces. All right, so now that I've got my potatoes peeled, let's go ahead and give these a dice and we're going to cut these up into uniform pieces. That way they cook evenly. You can make them as small or as large as you like on the chunks. I'm going to show you what mine will look like here in just a minute. So I've got, maybe that's about 1 inch thick on that one. I'm just going to cut it into thirds, cut it into thirds again. And I've got pieces that are about inch by inch cube on those. So I'm going to continue to cut these potatoes up and then we'll get ready to show you what else we're going to be putting in our stew today. So now that I've got my potatoes cut up, I've got those cut up in little cubes here. They're about 1 by 1 inch on those. They're all consistent sizes, so when I put those in my stew, they'll all cook evenly and be done about the same time. I've taken the 1 white medium-sized onion that I've got and I've cut that up into fine pieces. And then I've taken my orange bell pepper that I've got and I've cut that up into smaller pieces as well. They're about 1/2 inch on those. And I've taken 1 clove of garlic that I have minced and I've got that here. And then I've got the 3 cubes of my sofrito. If you haven't seen my video on how I make this, I'll put that link in that description box below. Then I've got some low sodium chicken broth that we'll be adding to it here. There's a lot of salt and things in the adobo and in the Goya seasoning that we'll be using today. So if you're trying to cut back on salt, this is one way that you can do that. And so I wouldn't put any more salt in the mixture. My home seasoning that I made also has salt in it, so that's probably about all the salt that I'll be putting in my stew today. But we'll be tasting it before we get to the end just to make sure that it doesn't need any more of that. And then the last thing we've got here is we'll be putting in 1 teaspoon of tomato paste, and then I've got 1 8-ounce can of tomato sauce that I'll be adding to my stew. So I'm gonna go get my chicken now and we'll meet you at the stove and we'll get that started. I have my Dutch oven on my stove now and I do have it turned on. We're going to be putting in just maybe 2 or 3 tablespoons of neutral oil in the bottom of the pan here. You can use olive oil if you like. I'm going to be using just a neutral vegetable oil today. And I did when I put my chicken in the refrigerator, I did transfer it to a Ziploc bag. You can definitely put the chicken in the Ziploc bag and put your seasoning in it. And that way you can mix it together with that. It's just another little trick that you can do with that. All right, now that my oil has come up to temperature, we're going to be putting our chicken in now. We're going to be putting it in skin side down. And we're going to let it cook on each side for about 3 minutes just to give it a brown. And then we're going to take it out of the skillet. All we're doing with this process now is we're just going to brown both sides of it, and then it will finish cooking as when we put all the other ingredients in with it too. So about 3 to 4 minutes on each side will be fine. Okay, now that we've got our chicken browned, we're going to take that up and we're going to put that in a bowl. Now we're going to take our onions and we're going to put those into our pot here, and we're going to cook those until they're about translucent, so about 3 to 5 minutes on those. Okay, our onions are cooking nicely. They've been in there for about a minute. I'm going to go ahead and add our bell pepper. Now we're going to add our sofrito. I did go back and measure this just to make sure I had the right amount, and there was 3 cubes of it, but each cube was 2 tablespoons. So there's a total of about 6 tablespoons of the sofrito in this dish. And we're going to go ahead and put that in and bloom that out. Now I'm going to add about 1 teaspoon of tomato paste. Now I'm going to add in 1 8-ounce can of tomato sauce. And now we're going to put our garlic in, our 1 clove of minced garlic. I've got my flame down on about medium low. Now I'm going to add in 1 packet of the Sazon Goya con Culantro y Achiote, and give that a good mix around. And then I'm going to add just a shake or 2 of the adobo. And let's give that a good stir through. Now let's add our chicken back in. And now I'm going to add my chicken broth in. I've got the low sodium version. We want to cover the chicken, so it might take more than 1 of these cans. If I need to open up another one, I will, or I can just add some water. All right, so that took about 1 1/2 of my chicken stock. And then I'm going to bring that back up to a boil. All right, my stew's come back up to a boil. We'll give it a good stir around, and we're going to let this cook for 20 minutes, and then we'll come back. I'll keep stirring on it about every 5 minutes. I'm going to turn it down to low now. We'll let this continue to cook, and then in about 20 minutes, I'll come back in and add our potatoes. We'll see you in 20 minutes. All right, we are back, and it's been 20 minutes now, and you can see how my stew is coming along. It's turning nice there. And now we're going to add our potatoes. And once you cut your potatoes up, just remember to make sure you put those in water so that they're completely submerged, because if you don't, they'll start turning a color on you. You don't want them turning pink on you. So just keep them in water till you get ready to put them in your stew, and then and they'll come out fresh every time. So let's go ahead and add our potatoes in. And we'll check to see if I need to add any more. Nope, I think that is going to do me. So let's cook these potatoes until they are fork tender, and that'll be another 20 to 25 minutes. So we'll keep stirring on it, and I'll be back, and we'll have the finished stew ready when it comes back. We've got about 10 minutes left on our timer for our potatoes, and they are coming along good. They're almost done. So now I'm going to take something that's completely optional. If you like olives, I love olives. I'm going to put some olives in my stew. And again, this is optional. If you don't like them, you can definitely omit those. But I think they add just a little bit of a nice flavor to them. So we'll give those a stir in. I'm going to take the lid off this now, and I'm going to let this cook for the remainder of the time, and that'll boil off some of the moisture here, and then we'll thicken up our sauce for our stew, and then we'll be ready to eat. We'll be back, and I'll show you what it looks like. I am back, and I've got my chicken stew plated, and I'm ready to eat. I've got a little bit of rice here on the side, and I've cut up an avocado, but I did cook my potatoes until they were fork tender. They're really good, and the chicken is done. I did check that also, but it is excellent. So we're going to give this a little taste test and see how this tastes. This is really good. You can leave the chicken in the way that it is here on the bone, or if you like, you can take the chicken off the bone and put it back into the stew, and that's probably what I'm going to do with the other pieces that I've got. I'm going to put it back in the stew and pull it off the bone. But this is my take on chicken stew, Pollo Guisado. So if you like this recipe and this content, don't forget to like and subscribe, and maybe pick out something over here. And we'll see you in my next video. Bye-bye now. This is a must try.